www.DESIblitz.com.
मेरा नाम डॉक्टर सईद अख्तर दुर्रानी है और मैं DESIblitz.com के ऊपर आपके सामने एक गुफ्तगू कर रहा हूँ। Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal, whom commonly we call Allama Iqbal, the great scholar Iqbal, was born in 1877 in northern India, now Pakistan, in a small town called Sialkot. In 1905, after his studies at Government College at Lahore from 1895 to 1899, he went abroad or came abroad to England, and he studied at the University of Cambridge, where he did a BA degree, although he already had an MA from India, because there was no PhD studies in Europe in England until 1920, and he came here in 1905 to 1908. So he did a research dissertation on which he was awarded the degree of BA in 1905. Then people suggested to him, I think his mentor, Sir Thomas Arnold, a great scholar of Arabic and philosophy, to go to Munich in Germany, because in Munich they had a PhD program for nearly a century. So he was then awarded a degree of PhD from Munich on his dissertation at Cambridge, same book, which is then published by Luzac of London in 1908. It was called The Development of Metaphysics in Persia, and so he became a PhD, which was a rare distinction those days in 1908. He was a poet-philosopher and a visionary. So he had a vision, and he said he was, in 1930, the president of the Muslim League of India, and in a conference at Allahabad in India, he said in December 1930 that in his view, the final destination for the Muslims of India, or destiny, was an independent state, which later on was called Pakistan. He didn't call it Pakistan. That word was invented by Rahmat Ali, another Cambridge man, which was made up, as you probably know, Pakistan, P for Punjab, A for Afghan frontier, K for Kashmir, S for Sindh, and Tan for Balochistan. So this man, Rahmat Ali, in about 1933, had invented this word. So later on, therefore, other people called it Pakistan. That, oh, he's propagating the creation of the same thing that Rahmat Ali was proposing. So then this state came into being called Pakistan. We call him not a poet just of Pakistan, but he is a universal poet, and his thought is really universal, in fact cosmic. And he has a following all over the world, and he is revered as a poet-philosopher because his poetry was not just lyricism and singing the songs of beauty and love, but also of aims and ideals and destiny of nations. Iqbal has written in Persian slightly more than in Urdu, 60%. This is the Urdu collected works. It's called Kulliyat Iqbal Urdu. It consists of 4 books. Bange-Dara, the caravan bell. We are starting on a journey. Bale Jibril, that is Gabriel's wing. Zarbe Kalim, the rod of Moses. You know, the rod of Moses, when he struck, it split the sea. Armughan Hijaz, the gift of Hijaz of Arabia in Urdu, and half of Armughan Hijaz is in Persian in the other book. The interesting thing is that his first books were actually in Persian. It was the classical language of India in 1900, and so he started writing first in Persian. In 1915, it was published his first Persian didactic poem called Asrar-e Khudi, The Secrets of the Self, which was translated by A.R. Nicholson of Cambridge, who had been one of his teachers at Cambridge some 10 years earlier. Then a sequel was Rumuz-e Khudi, The Mysteries of Selflessness. And then is a beautiful book called Peyam-e-Mashriq, also in Persian, The Message of the East. He says this is in reply to Goethe, the great German poet, who had written a divan of East and West. So he has written in reply to him this book, Peyam-e-Mashriq, The Message of the East. So he tells the West what East means. And then his Urdu books, Bange-Dara, Bale Jibril, Zarbe Kalim, Armughan Hijaz. So that is the sequence. In those days, people in India did not speak Farsi, but they composed, a bit like in England you might write in Latin in the 16th century, although you didn't speak Latin. There's a plaque at Stratford-upon-Avon, right at the Birthplace Trust, in which, with my translation into English of how much he is paying to Shakespeare. So he says, Shakespeare, Shafaq-e subh ko darya ka kharam aina, naghma-e sham ko khamoshi-e sham aina, barge gul aina-e arz-e ziba-e bahar, shahid-e mai ke liye hajla-e jam aina. हुस्न आईना हक और दिल आईना हुस्न दिल इंसान को तेरा हुस्न कलाम आईना है तेरे फिक्र फलक रस से कमाले हस्ती क्या तेरी फितरत रोशन थी माले हस्ती.
खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है.
This is one of his leading themes, and he more or less invented this word Khudi. Previously, Khudi was sort of self-regarding, to be too proud and so on. But his Khudi means to discover the intrinsic worth of yourself, self-awareness. He makes almost man a co-creator with God. He says, Khudi, در صدف خیش در دل دولت شعله فرو رفتن نگداختن است. He says that Khudi is to discover the pearl in your own inner oyster, inside. And Khudi is to go into the heart of the flame and not to melt down. You have to be strong. So Khudi is his self-awareness, and he says that Khudi hai tegh fasan la ilaha illallah. He says Khudi is a sword, and to say there's no God but Allah is the sharpening of that sword. I actually greatly admire all his poetry, but in Persian, I think Piyam-e Mashriq, the message of the East, and in Urdu, the Bale Jibril, Gabriel's wing, are my favorites. But his language is so distinctive, you can immediately say that must be Iqbal. Nobody else writes like him.
तुझे याद क्या नहीं है, तुझे याद क्या नहीं है, मेरे दिल का वो ज़माना, वो अदब गहे मोहब्बत, वो अदब गहे मोहब्बत, वो निगाह का ताज़ियाना, तुझे याद क्या नहीं है।
जिसका कोई किनारा नहीं, तू आबजू इसे समझा अगर तो चारा नहीं, तेरे मकाम को अंजुम शनास क्या जाने।